Look in a mirror right now, and something strange happens in your brain. You're not just seeing a face. You're seeing a stranger wearing your face, and some part of you is quietly negotiating with it. Is that really what I look like? Why does that angle look wrong? Why do I look better or worse in one reflection than the other? Here's the part that should bother you. That reaction isn't universal. Dogs don't do this. Cats don't do this. Almost nothing on Earth does this. You are one of a tiny handful of species that can even recognize its own reflection. And somehow, of all the species that passed that test, you're the one that ended up hating what you see. In 1970, a psychologist named Gordon Gallup ran a simple experiment. He put a red mark on the faces of chimpanzees while they were asleep, then placed them in front of a mirror. If an animal touched its own face when it saw the mark, that meant something huge. It meant the animal understood the reflection was itself, not another creature. Chimpanzees passed. Orangutans passed. Dolphins, elephants, even magpies passed. Human toddlers don't pass this test until around 18 months old. Before that age, a baby will reach out and try to touch the other baby in the mirror like it's a stranger in the room. Self-recognition isn't automatic. It's something that has to switch on. And once it switches on in a human being, it never fully turns off again. But here's where it gets strange. Every other species that passes the mirror test just accepts it. A dolphin doesn't spiral into self-doubt about its blowhole. A magpie doesn't avoid mirrors because it's having a bad feather day. We're the only species where recognizing ourselves turned into judging ourselves. So why does the human brain treat a reflection like a courtroom? Part of the answer is embarrassingly simple. You've never actually seen your real face. Not once. Not ever. Every mirror you've looked into your entire life has shown you a reversed version of yourself. Left is right. Right is left. Your brain has spent years building a mental model of you based on a flipped image. Photographs don't flip anything. A camera shows the version of you that everyone else sees, the actual, unreversed you. Which means the face in your photos and the face in your mirror are not the same face. They are mirror opposites of each other. And human faces are almost never perfectly symmetrical. So when you see a photo, you're not just seeing a bad picture. You're seeing a face that looks correct, but feels wrong, because it doesn't match the version your brain has memorized for years. There's actually a name for the effect that makes this worse. It's called the mirror exposure effect, first described by psychologist Robert Zajonc in the late 1960s. His research found something almost too simple to believe. Familiarity itself increases liking. The more you're exposed to something, the more your brain rates it as good, safe, and pleasant, regardless of what it actually looks like. That means you don't just prefer your mirror image because it's flattering. You prefer it because it's the version you've seen 10,000 times more often than anyone else has. Which means, statistically, you might be the only person on Earth who prefers the way you look in the mirror over the way you look in photos. Everyone else who knows you, they've only ever seen the unreversed version, the photo version, the real version. Sit with that for a second. The face you think is you might not even be the face the rest of the world recognizes as you. But that's just the mechanical explanation. It doesn't explain the deeper problem, because this isn't only about left and right. It's about why looking at yourself feels like being watched. In 2018, dermatologists at Boston University published research describing a pattern they were seeing across their patients. People were showing up for cosmetic procedures, not holding photos of celebrities like in decades past, but holding filtered selfies of themselves. They wanted to look like their own edited photo. Researchers gave a name, Snapchat dysmorphia, a term for a very specific, very modern kind of distortion. People weren't chasing an unattainable celebrity standard anymore. They were chasing an unattainable version of their own face, one that had already been smoothed, reshaped, and idealized by an algorithm, then presented back to them as if it were simply them, but better. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If you spent years staring at a filtered version of your own face, which one does your brain now think is real? And this is where it gets even more unsettling. Neuroscientists have found that the human brain processes faces, including your own, primarily in the right hemisphere, in a region that's specialized almost entirely for facial recognition and almost nothing else. Damage that region, even slightly, and a rare condition can occur where a person looks into a mirror and does not recognize the face staring back. They know, logically, that it must be them, but there is no felt sense of, that's me. Some people with this condition describe their own reflection as a stranger who happens to copy their movements perfectly. Most of us will never experience that extreme version, but almost everyone has felt a smaller echo of it. That flicker of who is that before your brain catches up and stitches the reflection back together with your identity. Self-recognition, it turns out, isn't a fixed fact about you. It's a process your brain performs every single time in real time, and processes can glitch. There's also a psychological effect called the spotlight effect, documented by researcher Thomas Gilovich. It describes how people wildly overestimate how much others notice and judge their appearance. In his studies, participants were sent into a room wearing an embarrassing shirt. They assumed nearly half the room would notice and remember it. The real number was closer to 1 in 10. You're not being watched nearly as closely as you think you are, but your brain still behaves as if a jury is present every time you catch a reflection, because you built your entire self-image in that flipped mirror world, alone, without anyone checking your work. Which means the harshest critic you will ever face was never other people. It was the reflection that only you have been staring at every single day for your entire life. Some cultures seem to sense that this relationship was dangerous long before any of this was studied. In certain Jewish mourning traditions, mirrors in the home are covered during Shiva, the period of grief after a death. The stated reason is to remove focus from vanity during a time meant for reflection on someone else entirely. But there's a deeper read hiding underneath it. Grief strips away distraction, and when there's nothing left to distract you, the mirror becomes the loudest thing in the room. Maybe that's the real reason humans struggle to look at themselves. Not because we look bad, not because evolution wired us to be self-critical for no reason. Maybe it's because the mirror is the only place where there is no other explanation left. No lighting, no angle, no excuse. Just you, looking directly at the one person you can never fully see the way everyone else sees them. The one relationship you can never end. The one face you'll spend your entire life interpreting and never once see correctly.